This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Just made it. I just pulled in from New York. Just made it for the show this morning. Actually, I'm not too far off. But after a big weekend down at Belmont, happy to be here on Sunday morning Racing Across America with Sully Crotty. Sully, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Yeah, as you said, you were down there all weekend. It was great weekend weather-wise down there, and the racing was probably even better. So
I told you before we went on the air, I've got a little one of the negatives, one of the many negatives of not having too much hair. My head got sunburnt. And part of that I think was in the morning. We had a great location right on the apron, but it was sunny yesterday morning. And for an hour doing the television show, I think I kind of roasted it there. But then I was in the winter circle a lot too, and it was a gorgeous day with plenty of sun. So I picked up a little sun right on the top of the old dome as well. But a few negatives, but mostly it was just a fabulous weekend. Before we talk a little bit about that, we're going to do some review. Towards the end of the show, we'll bring Steve Byk in. He was down there also. But we can get some highlights from him and just kind of sum up the Triple Crown season because, of course, he was at all the venues doing his radio show. But Sully and I will go through a lot of the stake section, all the highlights from yesterday. There were a lot of highlights. But first, I want to thank our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. Also, the Lita Auto Group, Leah, Cars for Life. Thanks to both of those organizations for their sponsorship. And once again, I did it plenty yesterday, but I'll thank the New York Racing Association again for their very generous hospitality over the Belmont Festival. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they hosted us. And again, they gave us a great location for the Friday, Saturday morning programming. And it was just a lot of fun to be down there. And we'll talk more about specifics and whatnot as the morning progresses here. Also want to remind you that today kicks off 4 Sundays at the Book. That's the title, right? I have that 4 Sundays, and I like that, the Book, which means here at the Clubhouse Racebook, a contest. It'll be a continuous contest. And this is week number 1. It's a trifecta type of contest, as I understand it. More information available at the website, capitalotb.com. But again, that's today here at the Clubhouse Racebook. So if you'd like to jump in and get a little shot on participating, we'd love to see you down here. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And Sully, before we start on specific races, let's just talk. They're nighttime thoroughbred racing tonight. I'm glad the guys in the control room put up the graphic. Just to remind you that you can watch nighttime thoroughbreds here on Capital OTB TV, but maybe more importantly, you can bet the thoroughbreds tonight via Capital OTB Bet. And of course, that was last night too, with a very late card going on down at Belmont. They ran the Brooklyn, as I said when I called in the gloaming, as it were, the late sunset there, which had a picturesque kind of feel to it, but it was later on in the evening after an early start, but plenty of good racing. As I say, before we get to specifics, let's just talk overview. Headline from the Belmont Stakes press office and the website last night into this morning. The Belmont Stakes generates record handle for a non-Triple Crown year. And that, I think, played off in the fact that it was a great card and great weather, as we say. 56,000 showed up. I don't know whether people think of that as a disappointment or not. I think if you do, you have to change your metric a little bit because that's just the way it works out in non-Triple Crown.
Right.
People are not going to show up in the numbers they do when there is a Triple Crown as compared to a non-Triple Crown year. and 56,000 is a pretty substantial number. Now, I will say, down there, that facility is so big, it was very comfortable. I could tell it's a big crowd because, with the great stakes action, the apron got very full for the stakes races, and certainly the Belmont. So you could tell there was a good crowd there. But boy, it was again a 56,000, and it was roomy and comfortable, and they did a great job hosting. And I wanted to touch on one other item because I talked about it right after they announced it. That 20-cent pick six. They got a great pool. It was the 2-day, couple of races on Friday, 4 races on Saturday. They had over $650,000 in the pool in a 20-cent increment. Again, to put that in perspective, if it had been a normal $2 pick six, that's $6.5 million. Would kind of be unheard of just to jump in on day one of a pick six. But $650,000 at the 20-cent increment meant the sequence, which wasn't crazy. I mean, I got together with a couple of guys in the press box, and we went 5 of 6, and the one we missed was Hog Creek Hustle, which was a horse that I kind of liked earlier in the year, so that one wasn't a crazy horse to have. So with a sequence that, again, you had to have a couple of interesting opinions, but it paid over $9,500. And I said I was going to be very interested to see, and it played out, I think, in a really positive fashion.
Especially on Friday, because 2 really logical horses won. But I mean, the Belmont Gold Cup, I mean, it's the 5-1. Obviously, that was nice on the European Shipper with Flavian Frye aboard. But before that, it was pretty logical there. And then, as you said, just Hog Creek Hustle was the only one that really you couldn't come up with there. And a lot of 3s and 8s in that sequence. I'm looking at it 3, 3, 8, 3, 8 with the 7. So first of all, that pool, as you said, that's ridiculous for $20,000 for a one-day thing, and $656,000 for a 20-cent pick for a one-day festival thing, and almost $9,500. That's a nice payout
for 20 cents.
Yeah, that's so. And as you said, without Hog Creek Hustle, nothing really did look too impossible to come up with.
All right, let's head into discussion of some of the highlights. And as I said earlier, there were a lot of highlights. And again, just kind of an overview. I think this weekend plays out great for Saratoga because you had a lot of the big names that validated who they are and what their reputations were. And I think given the connections and what's out there ahead, I think you can expect a lot of these horses to show up at Saratoga for the meet. And certainly we'll talk about it with the Belmont. The 3-year-old picture, I think, now plays out very well for the Travers also. So I think the weekend didn't just do Belmont proud, but I think it leads into Saratoga with a lot of anticipation now. Yeah,
you would think. And as you said, I think the Travers card is going to be just as good, you would think, with all these horses coming back and the races being so competitive. Besides the Acorn, there really wasn't, and they were flying up front of the Acorn, there really wasn't a blowout race. I mean, even the Bricks and Mortar race was a really nice race, and even Chad ran 1, 2, 3. Shocker there on the turf. But, yeah. But they were all really competitive races. So hopefully those horses do come up and those connections do come up to Saratoga, because that Travers card has the races that fit these type of fields. So a lot of good news for Saratoga.
Yada, yada, yada. Chatter, chatter, chatter. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the Belmont, and we'll pull it up. We'll watch the whole race from the gate and then come back and talk a little bit. But Tacitus goes off as the 9-5 favorite. I liked Tacitus. I had Sir Winston in the mix, and I said it yesterday during one of the cut-ins. Hopefully you paid attention. A couple of weeks ago when we had Mark Cassie on Racing Across America, I was talking about War of Will and asking one of those logical questions when the Belmont comes around. How's War of Will going to handle the 1.5 miles? And Mark said, I like a lot of horses, you don't know until they do it. But I'll tell you what, Sir Winston is definitely going to like the 1.5 miles. And so that was enough for me to put him at the bottom of my mix and juggle up an exactas and whatnot. Tacitus makes a nice run to come up second. Jovia, the horse that made all the trouble in the Wood Memorial at 21-1, runs third. Tax, who I could have made an argument for. I couldn't pull a trigger yesterday just because there were other horses I liked, but Tax runs fourth in here. Sir Winston 7, Tacitus 10, Jovia the number 1, Tax the number 4. War of Will is the number 9 horse, and Mark said he was a little bit disappointed, a little emotional that his Preakness winner didn't run better. Intrepid Heart, the number 8, the Pletcher horse that was getting a little buzz last few days from folks. That one winds up 8th in the field of 10. The horse I like from Pletcher, Spin-Off, a little bit disappointing at 6-1. Running 6th at 10-1, 6th in the field of 10. Master Fencer, the Japanese horse, kind of splits the field, running 5th in the field of 10. But we'll watch him coming out of the gate here, and watch it's a crafty ride from Joel Rosario, kind of saving some ground, and then in the stretch shifting to get the position to make the run down the stretch on the number 7, Sir Winston. But we'll take it away. Watch the stretch run of the 2019 Belmont Stakes. Be back after they come under the finish line for more review of yesterday's Belmont.
Tacitus is backed out here. Gonna just straighten him out, get him back into the starting gate. Ready for a start. They're off in the Belmont Stakes. And it is Jovia who comes out running well on the lead. Tax is away running in second position. Spin-Off is just off of them. And War of Will find himself 4th early on. And tucking in right behind him is Tacitus, who's 5th and drafting in behind War of Will into that first turn. And then it's Everfast, Intrepid Heart, Sir Winston on the inside, followed by Bourbon War. And last of them all is Master Fencer through a 23.92 opening quarter mile. So they make their way around this first turn here at Belmont Park, where Jovia, the expected pacemaker, is doing just that. He's on top by 3/4 of a length. Racing in second is Tax, Spin-Off, and Javier Castellano. Sitting off the pace here, they're 3 lengths behind. Tyler Gaffalione settling back. War of Will under stout restraint here, 4th on the outside after a half mile in an easy 48.79 seconds. The pace has not been fast. And then it's Intrepid Heart racing on the outside of Everfast, who's in mid-pack. Jose Ortiz and Tacitus are 3 deep up the backstretch, and they're 5 lengths from front-running Jovia. And then a break of another 2.5 to Sir Winston, and then it's Bourbon War, and Master Fencer is last, and he's 11 lengths behind. So up the backstretch they go. 3/4 up in 1:13.54 seconds. Less than 6 furlongs remain in this Belmont Stakes. And it's been Jovia all the way so far. Tax continues to pursue him as they race for the far turn. And then it's Spin-Off on the outside. At the rail, Everfast. War of Will, outside of horses, yet to be given his cue. He's 4 lengths behind with a half mile to go. Meanwhile, Jose Ortiz is starting to ask more from Tacitus, and Sir Winston has slipped through an opening on the inside as they make their way around the far turn. Still Jovia, still Tax, and on their outside it's Spin-Off. And War of Will is moving now, and so too is Tacitus. It's very wide, and Sir Winston is right in contention behind horses as they make their way to the top of the stretch. And they're into the stretch, and it is Jovia and Tax. Sir Winston comes up on the outside, and he got in front of War of Will, and Sir Winston has moved to the center of the track under Joel Rosario to take the lead. On the inside, Jovia fights on. Tacitus is there, and then Tax between horses. Master Fencer on the far outside. They're coming to the finish, and Sir Winston has won the Belmont Stakes. And then it was Tacitus second, followed by Jovia third. It's a photo for 4th. The final time was 2 minutes, 28.30 seconds.
And so it was Sir Winston, again, kind of a crafty ride from Joe Rosario, setting some ground around the turn and then finding a spot to make a run down the stretch. Tacitus with a nice late run, just a little too late, came from the back of the pack and was a good second. And again, now sets things up for a showdown later in the year. Tacitus, Sir Winston, War of Will, Maximum Security. We'll see what the game plan is going to be. Talked to Jason Service in the paddock on Friday. He said Maximum Security. I think we talked to him Friday. I think he was going to have a workout today or yesterday maybe, and they were going to decide there, Pegasus or straight to the Haskell, but Maximum Security aimed at the Haskell. We'll hear from Mark Cassie in a moment. It doesn't look like either of these are headed to the Haskell. They're more Saratoga, Sir Winston and War of Will. Again, War of Will, a little bit of a disappointment, running 9th in the field of 10. But Sir Winston now tosses his hat in the ring, and Tacitus with the second place finish again, obviously alive for the potential 3-year-old Eclipse with good performances ahead if he can get a win in the Travers or maybe string a Travers and a Breeders' Cup Classic performance together. I think the 3-year-old picture is clearly still wide open, but Sir Winston now a player in that conversation.
Yeah, you definitely think so. And as you said, a really nice ride by Joel. You can kind of tell when he was hugging the rail there that he had a lot left, and just a perfect timed ride by Joel. And for the 3-year-olds, as you said, obviously the Travers at this point is going to be a fantastic betting race, and then we're going to have to see what happens in New Jersey at the Haskell with Jason Service and Maximum Security. But you still have Country House. I know some people are kind of giving up on Country House, but a horse that was competitive in Louisiana going into the Derby. So you still have that runner for Belmont, and then you have the Baffert 3 as well. And Baffert said game winner is pointing right to the Travers. So off a little bit of a layoff, we'll see how game winner runs. So it's going to be a good betting race, and the 3-year-old picture obviously is just a little bit of a mess, but there's still some really good horses that weren't in this Belmont Stakes, and obviously Sir Winston did stand out. And the one thing that was interesting, Sir Winston was the only horse in the race that ran 100 buyer going into the Belmont. So it was a 100 even buyer. So and it was a Mark Cassidy Joel runner. 10-1 I thought was fair. I didn't have the horse on top. I had the horse fourth, but I thought I was with you there. I thought Tacitus made a really nice run. Looked like Jose asked him a little bit around the far turn and finished well. So definitely looking forward to what happens next in this 3-year-old class.
Yeah, and I had Mike Beer from the Daily Racing Forum on yesterday, and he made the point essentially about that triple-digit buyer. He said, if you look at the numbers, Sir Winston's the fastest horse based on the buyers, and that's interesting. And I was just kind of looking here, going back to Wonder Gadot up in Canada last year. If you think about it, this is kind of interesting. Because of the timing of the Canadian Triple Crown, Mark Cassidy has now won 5 of the last 6 North American Triple Crown races, because the Canadian Triple Crown comes after ours. So last year with the 2 wins, Wonder Gadot, and then was it Nipawa that won the 3rd leg? But it was a Mark Cassidy. Mark Cassidy with 2 different horses swept the Canadian Triple Crown last year, and now he's taken 2 legs of this. So 5 of the last 6 North American Triple Crown races with 4 different horses.
Yeah, that's a pretty good stat, and you would think Wonder Gadot would have won the Canadian Triple Crown if she didn't come down to Saratoga. So, so he's got a really nice barn. And as you said, that's an impressive stat. He's won those races with 4 different horses. So congrats to Mark Cassidy.
Leading perfectly into, as a segue, our Mark Cassidy. I was down in the theater at Belmont where they have typically the post-Belmont Stakes press conference. Mark Cassidy was there and talked a little bit about the results, Sir Winston, and a little bit of disappointment. I think I didn't use the end part where Tim Wilkin from the Albany Times-Union said, what were your feelings of War of Will, obviously coming out of the Preakness, and Mark said it's a little bit emotional. You have 2 horses, it's like your kids, and War of Will was so important with that nice win in the Preakness, and so he felt a little emotional with the horse not running as well as he would have liked to have with War of Will, but the nice win for Sir Winston. So we'll talk a little bit, about 8 minutes here, of the post-race presser yesterday, Belmont Stakes. Mark Cassidy with his thoughts after winning the big race.
Your impressions of the race, not only Sir Winston, but also War of Will as well.
Yeah, honestly, thank you. I saw where War of Will was, and to me, I could tell that he was struggling a little. Normally he's on the bit and wanting to go, and I thought maybe around the half-mile pole, 5/8 pole, I thought he was struggling a little. And then I looked for Sir Winston, and Joel had ducked inside, and I have to be honest, I started hollering for Sir Winston at that time. I could kind of see where War of Will was struggling, and he wasn't going to get anything. And, this horse, he's an amazing little horse. If at this time last year, if you had asked me to rate our top 22-year-olds, he would have been about 16th or 17th. But I'm very proud of him because he's kind of what our operation represents, and that is I feel like we develop horses. You'll see me a lot of times. We run horses. I think the first 2 times he ran, he got beat 10 or 20 lengths. And I can remember having a conversation with Mr. Farmer up at Saratoga, and he didn't run very well. And I said, don't give up on him. I said, it's crazy, but I see something. And let's just give him some time to develop, because he would finish. And I have to say, Jamie's done a tremendous job with him. We sent him up, I want to say, when did we send him up to you, Jamie?
I think he was like the second batch up.
Yeah.
He was around the second batch up, so that would have been sometime in around May.
Yeah, so we had him at our farm all winter long. And this is another, this is something else that I wanted to, we've spoke so many times not to be afraid to step out of the box. And we this winter, he had been at Woodbine, and he had gotten better at Woodbine, and he was running well on the synthetic. And I said to Mr. Farmer, I said, look, he doesn't really train like a good horse, but I think we have to give him a shot. And I said, if you don't mind, let's send him to New York and run him in the Withers. I said, we may get beat 30 lengths. I said, I really can't tell you. But if you're okay with that, let's do it. And he goes, yeah, let's give it a try. And he ran well in the Withers. There wasn't a lot of speed. I thought he came running. We took him back home to Ocala. Jamie was with us all winter long. And we ran him in the Tampa Bay Derby. And I said to Mr. Farmer, I said, Tampa Bay Derby is too short. But I said, we got to get some points, because this horse would love 1.25 miles. I said, if we could get him to the Kentucky Derby, I said, I'm not promising you that he'll win, but he'll run really well. And Julian Leperoux's ridden for me for years, and he doesn't get excited. He rode this horse in the Tampa Bay Derby, and at about the 16th pole, this horse kicked in really hard, and he was running over top horses. And after the race, Julian came back and he said, this is a really good horse. So then we went to Keeneland, and Keeneland was so speed biased, nobody was closing, and he just kind of ran around there. And so that there blew our Derby chances. So I said to Mr. Farmer, what about the Peter Pan? I said, he'll love Belmont, he'll love the big turn, 1.1 1/8, and if he comes running, we'll run him in the Belmont. And he said, sounds like a plan. Mr. Farmer's always good for, he likes his plans. And so that's how we got here.
And you said Mr. Farmer's under the weather this week.
He was. He's actually better, but just wasn't able to fly. And that's probably best they run. It's a shame, because I know he loves running in New York, and I know this race will mean everything to him. And crazy enough, this is one of the first horses I ever trained for him. He's very good friends with Oxley's, him and his wife Carol, and Mr. Oxley kept saying, you should give Mark a horse, you should give Mark a horse. And one day he said, look, if you see anything, I'll buy it. If I see anything, I'll buy it. And so I called him with a couple, and we bought a few. And he goes, I have a couple homebreds. Can I send them to you? And I said, sure. Mr. Winston. So we've only been training for him now 2 years.
And just so everybody knows, Joel was riding the 12th race, but hopefully we'll get him down here at some point in a little bit.
I don't know, but I bet on him, because he was really concerned about going to ride that race. I kept saying, Joel, you can, no, God. I gotta go.
Well, and it sounds like you might not have picked him up until later in the race, but he had the rail trip, and then he was looking for room at the quarter pole. Can you just tell us about the race through your eyes as you saw Sir Winston running?
Well, I knew, obviously going a mile. I said to everybody all week long, I said, if there's a horse that'll go 1.5 miles, it's going to be Sir Winston. And he, I kept saying, this horse ran the last quarter of a mile in 23 and 2. Going 1.1 1/8 on the dirt, that's amazing. And he was feeling good. We schooled him the other day in the paddock, and Jamie said, he's really quiet. He doesn't ever do anything. We schooled him. We were walking him back. I thought he was going to get loose. He was diving through the air, and there he's.
First time he really woke up.
Yeah. But Jamie's done a great job with it. We put radios on our riders when they work, but 2 weeks ago he said, "I've never been so nervous," because I told him what I wanted to do, and they sent me a video of the work, and I said, "Did you put a radio on Joel?" And he goes, "Yeah, I didn't want him to screw it up." I thought that was funny. I said, "Well, really?" And Joel was fine with that.
Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about the few weeks since Sir Winston came here after the Bluegrass and what you've seen with him in New York?
Yeah, like he's not a big horse, but he's really filled out in the last little bit. Like even leading into this race since the Peter Pan. And really, we've had, like Mark said, we've had an idea from a while back. The way he would close in these races, he would always show flashes of brilliance without ever having anything, being able to put it all together. So when we put Joel on, I knew he has no problem falling right out of it and coming running. So I think they really suit each other, and he rode very well today.
And before we open it up and talk more about Sir Winston, Mark, just a little bit more on War of Will. Any indications this week? You were pretty high on him, it seemed like, and you were pleased with his fitness.
Yeah.
But what do you think happened today?
Honestly, you guys have probably seen more of the race than I actually did. I had people and cameras already, so I don't know. Right here it looks like he's traveling okay. Maybe the mile and a half. Maybe the mile and a half. I'm not really sure. We'll get him back and check him out. And it's a tough grind. I felt like he looked good. I thought he was in a good place. So I really don't know, but one thing about it, he'll regroup and we'll come at him again. I think Sir Winston will be a great Travers horse, because I think a mile and a quarter will be a really good spot for him.
Trainer Mark Cassian and his assistant Jamie Byk there, the post-Belmont Stakes press conference at Belmont yesterday. And again, you could tell Mark very happy with the performance by Sir Winston. And again, he mentioned that he said to people all week long the horse would appreciate a mile and a half. He said it right here on Racing Across America a couple of weeks ago. As I say, that's one reason I put the horse in my mix. And obviously this horse, as I said earlier, throws his hat in the ring now on the 3-year-old side. And as you heard him talk, and he mentioned, this was just the beginning part of the press conference, but he mentioned a couple of times that the likely spots for both War of Will and Sir Winston will wind up to be this summer in the Travers.
Yeah, you would definitely hope that. I mean, you have a loaded hand like that. Why not put them both in there? We see a lot of trainers do that, and it just makes his hand a little bit more powerful, because we've seen Bob Baffert do it a lot, and obviously Chad and Todd do it a lot. So and now he's got two nice quality horses to run in the Midsummer Derby, so definitely would like to see them both run in the Travers.
Yeah, and he said, Haskell's not likely for War. Somebody asked War Will Haskell, and he said, he's looking Travers. So maybe think Jim Dandy for one or both as well. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's always a little question mark. That War Will has now gone through the Triple Crown Series, so what will they do next?
It's a lot to go to the Travers,
but
or
we'll
Haskell, not the Travers.
Yeah, Haskell and set things up for later in the year. You would think they want that little bit of a rest for at least that one. That makes a little sense. And Sir Winston also now coming out of this one, going up to Saratoga and pointing there, probably gives them the time they want as well. So again, setting up nicely for Saratoga coming out of this weekend. And the 3-year-old picture is looking like the Travers has the chance to become a kingmaker kind of a race. All right, let's move a little earlier on the card. Let's take a look at the Manhattan. Again, it was an afternoon full of blockbuster performances. We're going to watch the Chatta triple here with number 8, Bricks and Mortar, getting up late. Chart margin a length and a half. Not as late as the last couple of races. Bricks and Mortar, again, the number 8 horse. Robert Bruce, the 3, runs second. Number 1, Raging Bull, third. Channel Maker, who I thought was the interesting contender to Bricks and Mortar, the number 10 runs third in here. But as I say, Bricks and Mortar, as compared to the last couple of races where he was really up in the shadow of the wire, took the lead about mid-stretch and then opened it up enough that any late run was not going to be a real challenge. Bricks and mortar now, I mean, geez, this is just what a special horse. 9 wins and 11 career starts. And had the extended break from October 2017 until December of last year, well over a year on the sidelines, and now has won 5 straight. Came back in an optional claimer. Otherwise, 3 Grade 1s and the Grade 2 Munoz down at Fairgrounds. This is just a sensational turf performer.
Yeah, he really is, and you kind of got that sense of that that we would see this type of horse after we saw the Pegasus, and that was obviously a really nice field of Pegasus turf, and then went to the Fairgrounds and was a little bit more forwardly placed at the Fairgrounds, which is a tough place to win on the lead or a length off the lead, and was able to get the job done there. And then I thought the Derby run was a little bit more, the Churchill Downs race, Kentucky Derby Day, was a more impressive win than that one, even though that was an impressive win. But he was in the 5 path there and was in the 12 stall the entire way and got the job done there in a 13-horse field. But Chad running 1, 2, 3. Robert Bruce was in this race last year, was in that blanket finish. I think finished 5th by a half a length. And then Raging Bull's a nice horse for him as well. We know won the Hall of Fame last year at Saratoga. So he's running 1, 2, 3, and then they showed him on the Belmont coverage. He was going 1, 2, 3, and he was rooting for Raging Bull to get up there. But we see that a lot, Chad, to go 1, 2, 3, especially on the third.
I'm going to rip somebody off in the press box. I heard him mention this yesterday. 1, 2, 3 for Chad. It's the Triple Brown.
The Triple Brown. Look at that.
We also caught up in the winner's circle with owner Bill Lawrence. He owns part of Bricks and Mortar with Seth Klarman, Klarovich Stables, and Bill Lawrence, a local guy, and so caught up with him. Obviously very, very excited after the win from Bricks and Mortar. So here's a couple of minutes from owner Bill Lawrence talking about the big win in the Manhattan and what's up next, perhaps, for Bricks and Mortar. This couple, but he looked pretty good today.
Well, it's turf racing. I mean, turf racing, you don't win by a lot. You think you have the best horse, you want to get a good trip. And there was a lot of nice horses in there today. Rod, I said to him, he was in the 8-hole, said I got to try to get him inside. The 3rd, 4th step, he broke, and he was already on the rail. That saves a lot of ground when you get late in a turf race. And then he drifted up, and he made a perfect move down the stretch. So this guy's been super. I mean, he didn't run for over a year. He's come back. He's won 4 graded stakes. I don't know how you can be happy about a horse. I mean, we were patient. Chad and his group have done a tremendous job getting the horse back, and he's fun. But I mean, anytime turf racing, you don't win by a lot on the turf. That's all. They're tough. You got to get a trip. So we got lucky. We got a good ride, and we got a great horse. He's just turned out to be just a super, super horse, this guy.
Any discussion on maybe Saratoga?
It's a discussion, but it's tough with the Arlington Million. It kind of fits in his target at 1.25 miles. The Brook at 1 mile is really not his game, and the Sword Dancer going longer is kind of not his game. So I think, Chad takes it 1 race at a time. He's pretty good. You also got to, as in this race, make sure you have a horse that could beat Chad's other horses, because he had 3 other nice horses there. So we'll take his judgment. He's trying to sort it out, too, because usually Chad starts his turf horses in April, and you want to run the end of the year. This guy got started in December after being off a year. So it's a little uncharted water for him. So he's trying to figure out how to space that, because we'd like to, get a couple more races in him, and he'll have to make a decision whether to go short or long at the Breeders' Cup, but you got to keep him healthy for then. So right now, 1 race at a time. I mean, to get a guy back, again, to win 4 graded stakes and, big races. Big races. You win on Derby Day, you win on Belmont Day. Those are the days you want to win. There's some people here at the track, so it's good to win in front of a crowd.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And again, congratulations to Bill Lawrence, Seth Klarman, Chad Brown. Bricks and Mortar looked great yesterday. And again, these are audio interviews because I was just running around. We kind of wrapped up the TV portion of the day. I was running around with the little audio recorder and catching up with people in the winner's circle, which is why you're hearing the audio reviews here from the winner's circle. We'll have a little more of those coming up as we look at really one of the highlights of the weekend. We knew that was going to be the case going in with the Met Mile, which is a race that for 2 months, I think, folks have been anticipating, given horses coming out of stakes races at other venues, good performances and connections, saying, yeah, I think we're going to the Met Mile. And every time that happened, we'd say, oh, that Met is getting tougher and tougher. Shaped up to be a spectacular race with Mitole getting it done. We'll watch the stretch run. Number 3, Mitole, does win 7-2. I was happy with the price because I've been on Mitole's bandwagon since the Count Fleet victory down at Oaklawn. McKenzie wound up to be the 8-5 favorite. He runs second to number 2. Number 4, Thunder Snow, third. Promises Fulfilled, Dale's horse, the number 6, gets up for fourth. Frenzy Fire, the horse for a course runner, that as the week went along, the weekend, talking to people, I thought I was more and more interested in that horse. A little bit disappointing running 5th in there. Coal Front, very disappointing. I was shocked at the odds on Coal Front. Comes out of that win in the Godolphin Mile. They let that one get away at 10-1. I used Coal Front in the 3rd spot. I had it Mitole, McKenzie, Coal Front, and Thunder Snow. So at the price, I thought Coal Front was really interesting, but he wound up 7th in the field of 9. But again, on a day of big performances, this was really special. Mitole steps up to the mile, and traditionally one of the toughest mile races of the year in the Met Mile, and gets it done. Chart margin of 3/4 of a length, and he just looked spectacular in there, and it just adds to what is already a resume that is looking better and better and better.
Yeah, he did look great yesterday, and he was, he was been training well going into that race, and after those couple Oaklawn races as well. And some people were a little hestant, pulling the trigger on because of the way Whitmore looked the previous day. So, and Whitmore gave him a little bit of a battle. So, but this is a horse that. And the other question was, can this horse go back to a mile? And already previously ran the mile. And this, quality of a race with this many big names in there. And he got the job done. He's been training well, and obviously the stretch out wasn't an issue at all. Just a perfect ride by Ricardo Santana. And going to be excited to see Mitole back in Saratoga because he already has a win there last summer. But the field was, obviously, it was fantastic. It has been the last couple of years. Could have been the highlight yesterday, and the race certainly did not disappoint. But I was with you. I liked Frenzy Fire, a little bit disappointing. Going to have to see where this horse lands next time out.
Yeah, and Mike Beer, when I had him on yesterday, mentioned Whitmore, and said, on the performance Friday, does that, make you question him? I'm just wondering if Whitmore is maybe going in the wrong direction the last couple of races. Mm-hmm. He's now put 2 a little bit disappointing together. And I'm a huge Whitmore fan. That's the thing. But again, Mitole, spectacular. Steve, we'll listen to Steve Asmussen talk about that one in just a second, but I wanted to toss in Thunder Snow. They said that one's going to go back to England, but come back for Saratoga and try the Whitney. The mile may have been a little too short for Thunder Snow. Ran a good 3rd, but I think they'd like to get a big race on their resume here in America on the dirt for Thunder Snow. Obviously, that plays into a stud career. Has the nice, obviously, Dubai World Cup wins, but I'm sure they like a grade 1 over here as well, and they're going to come back, and their target at this point is the Whitney. But up next, again, we had some Winner's Circle interviews, and we did catch up with Steve Asmussen and got his thoughts on the really spectacular performance by Mitole in the Met Mile.
He's obviously a very special horse. To beat the horses that were 2nd and 3rd are, speak for themselves, and for him to come out on top today, we're just extremely proud of him, and we will love on him and pet on him for a while, and then enjoy the victory, and then regroup and try to decide what to do with him the second half of the year.
He had walked out of the winner's circle in Churchill, and you were already thinking about this race. Was there any, did you always have confidence that mile?
I believe this race is the showcase that we want it to be, and you know how I felt about the horse last year, and then with the a little splint issue that we had, we got off track. But for him to, the Heidelbergs to wait it out and to be in this position, standing here where we are today, is very gratifying.
Of course, how the race went, would you expect to be, is Coal Front the horse you expect to be tracking?
It's fast. I think the post positions dictated who had to do what, and it's just a tremendous race from top to bottom, and for him to, sustain the pressure of Coal Front and Promises Fulfilled, and then hold off McKenzie and Thunder Snow speaks for itself. Thank you.
Take him back to Churchill, and then might be seen in Saratoga for the great one.
I expect him to go to Saratoga for the summer. I thought it was very important with Basu and with Matoli, with that pretty much being their home base, for us to go back there, make sure everything's exactly how we expect it to be, and then this being the first half of the year, I think we'll regroup and map out a plan for him to get to the Breeders' Cup after this. Thank you.
I think we'll get a chance to see him up there. As I said earlier, I think a lot of these horses from yesterday will be up at Saratoga. There were a couple of races on the day that were not as spectacular as the others, and we'll take a quick look at one of them, the Woody Stevens, just because it was a nice race that I think, because of the outcome, was a little bit surprising. You said you played around a little bit with Nitrous, who will run second in here at 17-1. I did too, because I like the Oaklawn horses, so he had that for him. So I'm not saying I used Nitrous in my mix. I'm saying I looked up at the board and said, I'll play around a little bit with that one. So I was a little bit disappointed with the second place finish. Hog Creek Hustle, a number 8 here, who wins the race at 18-1. Was a horse I liked earlier this year down at the fairgrounds and played around a little bit with. I couldn't pull yesterday. Nitrous, the number 6, runs second. Baracho runs third. But Honest Mischief, the horse that had the buzz and went off as a 2-1 favorite, winds up running 6th in here, disappointing. Mind Control runs 8th. Complexity, the other Chad runner, and the one I liked on top, runs last in the field of 11. So this race kind of fell apart a little bit, and we'll see how it plays out as the year progresses, and whether Hog Creek Hustle can kind of validate this performance, as well as the 2 or 3 that finished behind them. But as I say, this and maybe the last race where Marconi won the Brooklyn, and that one, to me, good for them for winning a nice stake. Pletcher runner wins the last race of the day. But this race in the Brooklyn, this race more just kind of fell apart. In the Brooklyn, it was 2 races after the Belmont. The air was kind of out of the balloon by then a little bit. But the 2 races that, to me, congratulations to Connections, and we'll see what horses can do going forward. But I think the other stakes on the day all had kind of potential players in their division, potential stars to hang your head on. I'm not quite sure here yet.
No, yeah, you'd obviously need to see one more. And much like last year, this race was very quick up front, so it's set up for horses from off the pace. And yeah, I loved the Nitrous coming in from Oaklawn. I thought his 2 numbers in Oaklawn were fantastic, and I thought this race fit him well. I thought with the amount of speed in here, it set up nice for him, and and just needed another 50 yards to get by Hog Creek Hustle. So the other disappointment I thought was Mind Control, who was the favorite on the morning line, and he got bumped a little bit by Hog Creek Hustle. That's why the inquiry was there, but he was kind of a horse that was going backwards instead of progressing with Hog Creek Hustle. But I'm excited to see where, I think that 1 turn is now the move for Hog Creek Hustle, you would think, and then Nitrous as well. But definitely won't get 18-1 and 17-1 the next time out for these 2.
Yeah, they took a look, and there was some bumping there. I kind of thought and I didn't get a good look at this one or a good look at the one earlier. I want to take extra looks at both of them. But this one, I think I would have tilted towards taking him down. The earlier one, where the West Point guys had to be disappointed as they got taken down from second in the Easy Goer, that one I wouldn't have taken. So, but I have to get a better look at both of those. All right, let's move on to the Acorn. Get some quick thoughts here before we reach out to Mr. Byk, and we want to watch Guarana here. And this was a horse I used underneath. I used CC on top. Both were lightly raced, but Guarana went off as the favorite. Chad Brown runner had won a career debut effort, steps up out of this and right into the Grade 1 Acorn. Second career start, not only wins, runs away and hides from this bunch. The number 7 horse, Kentucky Oaks winner Serengeti Empress, runs second in here in a decent little effort. Then Geltrin runs third at 46-1. CC, who I like, fourth at 4-1 as the second choice. No, the third choice, actually. Serengeti Empress was the second choice. But in a division that is crying out for a leader, maybe Chad Brown has one here.
Yeah, you would think. And I think another thing that helped this horse out a little bit is they were flying in this race. 21-8 and 43, almost a 44 for the half. So I thought Serengeti Empress on the lead the whole way. had to fight off Cookie Dough, who wanted to go to the lead as well, set those fast fractions. I thought it was a good enough effort by Serengeti Empress where you can give this horse another shot. And I think going back to 2 turns the next time out will help her out. But yeah, as you said, this is the second career start coming in from Keeneland. Really nice performance by Guarana.
And we're going to take a quick look at the Jaipur. I'm actually going to go back because Hog Creek Hustle, we had some audio from Vicky Foley, and I kind of skipped over that. And I just wanted to let you hear her because I talk about a lot when I'm doing the handicapping show. Vicky Foley and Greg Foley down at Churchill Downs, you have to pay attention to the Foleys. And this was her first grade 1, so I do want to give a chance to let you hear her. Obviously very excited after the win from Hog Creek Hustle and the Woody Stevens. So I want to go back and play that audio. Again, somebody, I didn't know what she looked like even. I have seen her in the forum, and I always say, the Foleys, when you're down playing Churchill, you got to pay extra attention. But caught up with her in the winner's circle and got some comments. So again, we'll hear from Vicky Foley. Her first, not her first grade 1 overall. She mentions that, I think, in the interview, but it was her first grade 1 in New York. So Vicky Foley, trainer of Hog Creek Hustle, winner of the Woody Stevens.
And the rest is history.
Why'd you ship to New York? What were you thinking? What did this horse shown you? You want to come here and try this?
The 7 furlongs was perfect, exactly what we've been looking for, and he showed it today.
Were you nervous at all during the inquiry?
Yes.
Okay. Was a coin flip, maybe, you think? Either way? Could have went either way?
I don't know. You know, we're from Kentucky and came to the Big Apple, so I was a little nervous. But it went our way, and I think they did the right thing.
Thank you.
Have you won a grade 1 before?
Yes. I won with She Says It Best at Keeneland.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
But it's your first grade 1 in New York.
Yes, it is.
And what a thrill to win on Belmont.
What a thrill. This is a thrill. And
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does. They're obviously with the Amsterdam and, there were some races up at Saratoga that could potentially, but she's Kentucky-based. So this one I don't know, but I'm going to be interested to see what Hog Creek Hustle can do to kind of validate what we saw on Saturday. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Steve Byk will join us. Again, he's been covering the Triple Crown season on the road with his radio show, which you can hear the replays of here in the morning on Capital OTB TV. So stay tuned. More Belmont Stakes Day coverage right after this.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
In a recent study of some of the top online wagering sites, Capital OTB won big in total player rewards, far surpassing some of the best-known wagering sites in America. While other rewards programs simply offer you points redeemable for gift cards, Capital OTB's rebates are paid to you in actual cash. Plus, Capital OTB gives you full and immediate access to your money. So if all you're getting now are points and gift cards, join Capital OTB Player Rewards today and get cash back. Visit CapitalOTBBet.com and sign up today. No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Across America, Seth, Merrow, and Sully, Crotty in the studio, and as promised before the break, we are joined now by Steve Byk, the host of Sirius and XM's At the Races. You can hear the replays here in the morning, and hopefully people have been tuned in the last 5 weeks. Great coverage of the Triple Crown Series wrapped up yesterday with the Belmont Stakes. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. It hasn't wrapped up yet. Not until we recap the last 3 days.
Yeah. You're right, and that'll be coming up this week, certainly, so people should stay tuned in for that. I told you, I sat in with you on Friday as you were wrapping up your live from Belmont coverage the other day, and I applauded you on behalf of the audience because I am a member of the audience very often, obviously listening either live via the internet or here on the network archive replays. You did a great job throughout the Triple Crown. It's always great when you're on site and you bring in guys like Welch to give the workout reports, the trainers, and then the aftermath and whatnot. So again, just before we go on, heads up, nice job.
Thank you. Nothing like boots on the ground.
There you go. Yes, I haven't used that in a while. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I'm going to play into that. All right, let's get some thoughts on the Belmont Stakes from yesterday. We took a look at the replay earlier. We can take a look at the stretch run again. Sir Winston gets it done. I had Mark Cassidy on a couple of weeks ago, and you asked the typical question, how's War Will going to take to the 1.5 miles? And he said, I like any horse, you don't know until they run it. But Sir Winston is definitely going to like the 1.5 miles. Well, he did. Tacitus, I thought, ran well to get the second place finish. Jovia third, Tax fourth. What were your thoughts in yesterday's Belmont Stakes?
Well, you hit the important
They're away
point,
to the
which
top
is,
of the stretch,
the breeding
and they're
side,
into the stretch,
for a horse
and it
like
is
him,
Jovia
and he's top and bottom. He was bred for the trip. The story is going to continue to be the trip and the ride. Joel Rosario, in the biggest moment, really has a tendency to produce. I know there's people who look at some of his performances and shake their head. He is capable of inexplicable or rides that make you cross your eyes. But for the most part, in big money situations, he's the guy these days I think you want the most. And he really proved it yesterday. I've got to watch the replay a few more times. I watched it 2 more times this morning. He gets over to the rail, and he saves every ground. And, there's going to be a lot of discussion today, tomorrow, into next week about how fast the track was playing and about how gold the rail might have been. It certainly wasn't a bad place to be, that's for sure. He took advantage of that, and not only did he tip out for the stretch run at a perfect time, slightly interfering with his own stablemate. War of Will was pretty much done at that point, but the horse gave him not one, maybe 2 moves, maybe even 2.5 moves when he asked, and I thought that's really important. Rosario has ridden him now in these 2 races, the Peter Pan and yesterday, and he's the perfect rider for a horse like this. And I know people are talking about how Tacitus should have won, and he lost ground. And you know what? I'm sorry, I don't buy that. McKenzie got beat because he was in a kind of a jackpot all the way around. That's racing, and I'm not convinced that Tacitus necessarily wins with a different trip. He ran very well. He ran hard every step. He's going to win races the second half of the year. If you want to applaud a horse that was plucky, and I don't even care how fast the track was and how much he may have benefited from the speed of the track. Jovia ran an unbelievable race for Greg Sacco. I mean, that was unbelievable for him to hold on for third when there were horses that were closing. Really outstanding. I thought Greg Sacco was really, and the owners, I know the 2 brothers, they were very eager to run, and it pays off with a grade 1 placing. So, the top 3 finishers. How about Tax? Tax was struggling all week. All week he was a mess and didn't look good. And then when the gates opened, he ends up running well. Master Fencer looked skinny and looked ragged coming in. He was plucky and ran a big race. So I thought overall it was a satisfying race. It didn't come back very fast. The 95 buyer. these horses aren't, it's the first time or going a mile and a half. Maybe some of them you'll see in the Brooklyn next year and they'll be faster. But overall, with this crazy Triple Crown season, pretty good finish. And I will say one thing about the Cassie story. Everybody kept talking going in, making Tacitus the horse to beat. Oh, Bill Mott could win 2 legs of the Triple Crown with 2 different horses. I kept saying, so can Mark Cassie.
I mentioned this earlier. This is interesting. I thought about it last night on the drive home. Given the timing of the Canadian Triple Crown, Mark Cassie has now won 5 of the last 6 North American Triple Crown races with 4 different horses.
Look at the big research brain on set.
Again, I think it's interesting with the timing of the Triple Crown, though, up there in Canada, the way that played out. But that he did it with 4 different horses up there, Wonder Gadot and Nipowa last year, and then the 2 this year. It's just kind of an interesting, as you say, angle to see how that played out. And I'll toss in, we talked about at the top of the show, I think yesterday and the really nice performances play out well for Saratoga, but certainly with the way the Triple Crown played out overall, the Travers is has the potential to be kind of a kingmaker race.
That's a good point. And one of the things that we were all kind of kicking around during the week, and really since the Preakness, was that if Warwick Will could win Belmont, he'd be the clear leader for a 3-year-old title. But that if he didn't, it would open things up quite wide, and that's what's happened. And that's going to be to the benefit of the whole division as we go to the Haskell and we go to the Travers and the Pennsylvania Derby.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how it all plays out. All right, speaking of big performances, wanted to get some thoughts on obviously one of the races that for the past 2 months people have been talking about in anticipating, the Met Mile, and it played out. I liked Mitole. I've been on this bandwagon since he beat Whitmore down at Oaklawn, because I've always liked Whitmore. Mitole gets it done yesterday. McKenzie, as you said, made a nice run to get up for second. Thunder Snow runs third, and here Dale runs fourth with promises fulfilled. The horse for course, Forensi Fire, maybe a little bit disappointing, running fifth in the field of 9, but Mitole was spectacular in the Met Mile yesterday.
Yeah, he was very good. McKenzie.
Even if you like McKenzie, though, you can't take it away from Mitole. I mean, he ran well.
No, he ran well. If McKenzie doesn't get stopped, 3 times, I'm sorry. He's probably the winner. Sets things up in a lot of directions. Mitole was wonderful. I get it. I also can reiterate that as Baffert, why Baffert gets frustrated when he draws inside, and when you hear trainers talk about being drawn inside, that's why. That's what they're worried about. And he was pocketed for far too long. Smith had options of getting out, and he didn't, and it cost him. And Thunder Snow backed up into him. I mean, that was when Thunder Snow was dropping anchor. He backed himself right up into McKenzie. So be interesting to see how they both go forward from here.
And I mentioned earlier they're talking about Thunder Snow back to England, but coming back potentially for the Whitney. So again, play out nicely for Saratoga. We're getting towards the end of the show, but let's just talk overall the weekend. We watched a bunch of the replays earlier, but some we haven't talked about yet. The Phipps Midnight Bijou looked very good. Rushing Fall, obviously, in the Just a Game. World of Trouble and the Jiper. We already talked about the Acorn, which off the maiden debut victory, Guarana gets it done in the Acorn. Hog Creek Hustle, you were talking about Vicky Foley. We were talking in the winner's circle after that race. Give us some thoughts yesterday or Friday, going back to Friday.
Well, the Vicky Foley Hog Creek Hustle story, and I suppose that the most important part of that discussion is the way the racetrack was playing and how that resulted in changes of approach into the race. because the Cassie horse was at Summer Strike or Strike Summer, and also Al Gold's horse, Wendell Fong. Those weren't horses that were going to vie for the lead. Those weren't horses that were interested in being part of the pace. They were there. They went out to the lead in the case of Cassie, and in the case of Engelhardt, pressed the pace because it seemed like the racetrack was playing so that you had no chance if you weren't part of the pace. So they do that, and it changes the entire complexion of the race. So the way the racetrack was playing lightning fast changes everything. And it also throws off, frankly, your horseplay. Because, now you change philosophy as well, and you start looking for who's going to be on the lead. And horses that had no interest in being part of it suddenly are. So it does change the complexion. And, as a result, you end up with, the 8th, 9th, and 10th horses early end up first, second, and third. So it's a total collapse scenario that you couldn't possibly have considered. So the bottom line on the victory, I could not be more delighted. Vicky Foley has been training horses for 40-something years, and it's a career-defining win for her. Just wonderful. And Corey Lannery, how great is it for him to come to New York and win a Grade 1? A lot of nice things about the result here with Hog Creek Hustle, a horse that we got kind of attached to earlier this winter when we were in New Orleans. And Don Winfrey, the long retired New England horseman, he and Vicky Foley are kind of have been an item for several years, and we all had lunch at Loise's in New Orleans by the track, and she was high on him and thought that he was a special horse, and really rewarded yesterday. That to me, that was the best outcome of the whole day.
Yeah, and I said earlier when I'm in here doing the handicapping show at Churchill, if Vicky Foley's listed as a trainer, I always take an extra look. She gets some sneaky horses down there in Kentucky. I'm going to be interested to see what this horse does next time out. Validates this performance, where they go next, and how it plays out. Any other thoughts on the weekend?
What else? Well, Chad, obviously, seven stake wins, and some horses on the main track running particularly well, and that's got to make him happy. He's going to dominate the turf performances. Who else? Steve Eskerson, obviously, with Midnight Bisou. She's a terror. That division, is kind of on its side a little bit. So she's the boss in the clubhouse right now. We'll see if Monomoy Girl gets back, and we'll see what a late can do next week in the Fleur de Lis.
You mentioned Al Gold. He had the nice tribute to Gilligan's Island win the 2-year-old filly stake on Thursday.
Absolutely. Marianne or Ginger, first-time starter. And, Mike Beer from Daily Racing Form really sniffed her out. He talked about, a few different things. And when she stumbled and had that sort of stutter step, opening, I thought, all right, she's another day for her. But then all of a sudden you saw her coming. I'll tell you who else has to be watched is that in the boys' race, that horse of Asmussen, of Contessa's, that finished second. That looked like a 3-year-old facing 2-year-olds. A big lopey thing. He's going to be a nice horse. That I'm going to forget his name.
The Italian American.
There you go.
And I'm just looking, and the winner there was 4 left. The horse coming in from the West Coast for Doug O'Neill. Give us before we let you go. Give us the lineup. You said the next couple of days you'll probably be going over the weekend on the radio show.
I'm not going to be talking about breakfast we had with Bobby Flay. Well, I will talk about that, but yeah, of course we're going to talk about everything. And
wait, you had breakfast with Bobby Flay?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How come I don't get invited to these events?
Well, if you dressed a little better, you might, if you put some thought into it, you might have a chance,
Your interview where you got me when we talked on Friday, that's getting rave reviews too.
Well, and frankly, you foreshadowed why you didn't get the haircut. If you had gotten the haircut, I would have invited you. That was the key. In fact, I forgot to send pictures this morning.
I was about to wrap up by saying before we went on the air, your lovely wife Tina said hello as well, and I will say hello back and goodbye and travel safely back home. But as we've had you on throughout the Triple Crown series, the guys in the control room have been picking up some of the social media pictures of you and your lovely wife Tina, and we didn't have the photos this morning.
Well, you picked them up because I send them.
No, actually, that's not true. Dino in the control room gets to pick some stuff off of Facebook occasionally.
Well, then you had the whole you had the whole gamut there. You had everything you needed. You had this was, let me tell you, this was an all-star. This really was a great finish to the Breeders' Cup, to the Triple Crown season. We had dinner at Merrow's the other night. My first time there. That was spectacular. What else? The Bobby Flay Belmont breakfast yesterday in the city at his place. It's just, it's been a perfect King Umberto's night after night.
Oh, I wanted to get to King Umberto's and I didn't, but I pulled up their menu on the website. What happened to Braciole? The Bic Braciole?
It was a little too much Pachki. A little too much work goes into Braciole. But they named the swordfish dish for me, and Tina had it. How was it?
It was excellent.
Well, there you go. So long as you got something on the menu, but the Braciole was great. I'm 4 stars.
Well, you drove home with Howard Johnson's last night?
Actually, this is funny. I mean, this is right in my wheelhouse. But a couple of nights ago, I did because I left the track at like 10 o'clock, and so. The Triple Crown Diner, I know, but it's like literally right across the street. But I'm eating dinner at the Triple Crown Diner. Who's like 2 booths away? Jean Cruguet. And I wanted to go over and ask him if he was having the Seattle Slew sandwich.
Very good. Nice. I'm glad you went over there. That place has had a checkered past somewhat. They've had trouble. They've sort of had trouble staying open. There's new owners fairly recently. Yeah, it's weird. It changed hands, and then it was an illegal battle, and it was closed for a while. But it's a natural. The place over a couple of doors down, Talk of the Town, the Luncheonette, is terrific.
Okay, I'll put that on the
Dave in there. Yeah,
I'll put that.
Terrific.
It was speaking. We're running.
That's a takeout place, though.
Okay. Well, I can take out, but. We're running late, but just one of the Triple Crown Diner stories. And diners, I will admit, I'm lowbrow when it comes to diners, comfort food. I'm right in that. But I went a couple of years ago after American Pharoah had won the Triple Crown, and I kidded about the Seattle Slew sandwich. But on one side of the menu, they have sandwiches named after all the Triple Crown winners. But the year American Pharoah won, obviously he wasn't on the menu yet because he had just won. But I went in that night or the next night. And the waiter came over and I pointed to the sandwiches. It's called the Triple Crown Diner. And I said, hey, you're going to have to add one. And he went, what? so they kind of didn't get the whole concept.
Well, is there a Justify sandwich now?
Yeah, they've got them all now. They're all covered now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, Steve, we'll let you go. We've been a little off topic here, but we appreciate the conversation. And again, looking forward to listening to the radio show this week for plenty of recaps. And again, say hello to Tina and drive safely back to upstate New York.
Well, and you've been saying hello to Tina. Say hello to everybody in the Capital District.
Hi, Seth. Hello, everyone.
There you go.
Steve Byk's lovely wife, Tina, heading back to, and as I said before we went on the air, and we should have had a picture because I was separated from you guys walking out of the paddock in a situation where I could not catch up to you, but I wanted to walk up and compliment Tina. She looked fabulous yesterday.
How did I look?
Well, you always look fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
I totally agree.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Travel safe. We'll talk again. And folks, we kind of tipped our hand a few more weeks back in the saddle up at Saratoga. So looking forward to that as well with Lucette in the lead.
Excellent.
Yeah. All right. Take it easy.
Enjoy the day.
Steve Byk, lovely wife Tina, and once again, giving me the hard time. Yeah, between the two of us, he is the sartorial, the half of the duo. There's no question about that. I'm not, but I look presentable, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm the one who doesn't. That's why.
I think you're an upgrade for me too. But again, I mentioned, and if we have a minute, maybe. It's getting close, but they haven't started at NYRA yet. Maybe just play a couple of these audios that we didn't get to. So if the guys in the control room can key up, maybe we'll do the Mike Dubb and the Steve Asmussen talking about Midnight Bijou. It's just another 2.5 minutes or so. So if the guys can do it, World of Trouble won the Jaipur yesterday, caught up with Mike Dubb in the winner's circle. And this is interesting because he talks about potentially where next for World of Trouble, which includes a potential Saratoga start. So if the guys in the control room can tee that up, Michael Dubb, again, in the winner's circle, right after World of Trouble, won the Jaipur yesterday on the grass.
He was purchased after his first race. Kim Valerio suggested the horse to me, and some people thought I was nutty. We paid $160,000 for a horse that broke its maiden for $25,000. But after careful review of his maiden-breaking race, 10 or 20 times, I decided to take the plunge, and this horse is a one of a kind for me. Never had a horse like this before. Grade 1 turf and dirt, just unbelievable.
I mean, that's saying something considering the horses that you've had.
Yeah. No, I've never owned a winner that's grade 1 turf and dirt before, so I'm just over the moon. Couldn't be more happy.
Yeah, grade 1 winner in the Carter, and then we talked to you that day after that race, and you were saying it might be better on the turf, and so you get the grade 1 on the turf. Just talk about how special that is, a career like this, 9 wins and 13 starts at turf and dirt, grade 1 winner.
Well, you got to, the credit goes to Jason. I don't know if any other trainer develops a horse like this. He is so careful not to overtrain his horses, and, if there's a spot, we ran this horse a couple times in state bred races, Florida state bred races. He really pays attention, and he doesn't want to, jump right into the fiercest race there is. So we took our time with him, picked the spots judiciously, and, as Woody Stevens used to say, we are very cognizant of leaving soap on the bar.
Speaking of that, you have any plans? You're just going to soak this winner, and will we see him at Saratoga and something?
We might toy with the Vanderbilt on the dirt. But I'm going to leave that call up to Jason. We see how the horse comes out of the race, and I'll leave it up to Jason. But Jason and I have, bandied that about a little bit, and we'll play with it when the time comes.
All right, we'll look for him up there. I said when I talked to Jason yesterday, I said I'll catch you in the winner's circle tomorrow, and so here we are.
Oh,
congratulations.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, he was World of Trouble phenomenal in the Jaipur, and it'll be fun if they do choose the Vanderbilt to go back to the dirt. It's just crazy how versatile this horse is. And finally, again, just catch some Steve Asmussen, because Midnight Bijou in the Phipps. You would think at this point she is the leader in that older filly and mare division off a really nice effort yesterday.
Until Monomoy Girl comes back, you would think so.
Yeah, and it's now we're getting to the question mark of what is going to be the game plan with Monomoy Girl. But Midnight Bijou just has looked spectacular, really, since moving into the Asmussen barn. Gets it done in the Phipps yesterday. So again, just to have about 30 seconds from Steve Asmussen talking about the performance yesterday, Midnight Bijou.
Saratoga next?
She will go back to Churchill immediately after this. The amount of time we've had her there, she'll most likely have at least a breeze or two at Churchill before deciding her next race.
And I walked in a little late. Just your impressions of this race today?
Just proud of her. Just proud to be associated with her. The Allens, Jeff Bloom, Mike, just everybody involved with her adores her and knows how fortunate we are to be around her.
Thank you, sir.
Steve Asmussen on Midnight Bijou. And I'll ask the guys in the control room. I just realized the Chad Brown interview with Rushing Fall. Can we do that as well? So yeah, they say yeah. It's only about 45 seconds. As I was looking, I was thinking we'd already done that, but I don't think we have. But before we get to what we hear, he said one of the best race mayors he's ever trained, obviously, and he gives that impression in what you hear here. But I cut out that first part because then there was some bad audio in the beginning. But you get the impression from this. But I will just say, he said, and I'm quoting pretty close, I'm paraphrasing, but getting pretty close. He said one of the greatest race mayors he's ever trained. But Rushing Fall yesterday in the Just a Game looked spectacular, obviously. So let's get some thoughts on that one from Chad Brown.
Between some different distances she can run and her running style, she doesn't need the lead, but she has enough speed to really hurt you. If you let her get ahead of you. You saw when she was a 2-year-old in the Breeders' Cup, she came from off the pace with a wide trip. I mean, a horse like this does not come around very often. Yeah, I want to speak to Bob Edwards and his family and see what we think is next. But I'd say the logical thing to do is to get her back out to a mile and 1/8 into Diana.
Congratulations, Chad.
Thank you.
So again, Diana mentioned there, as I said at the top of the show, yesterday with the big performances plays into a great Saratoga.
Yeah, and the one thing with Rushing Fall is I think that horse is 7-7 at Keeneland, and her only loss is by, I think, a nostril. So I could see why Chad gives her that much praise and compliments.
Yeah, it was, again, a nice performance yesterday as part of a series of really nice performances. It was a great 3 days of racing down there. I think that 20-cent pick six on the wagering side of things. And just overall wagering, we talked a little at the top of the show. I think it was a couple of days where folks could have made some money. Hog Creek Hustle was a tough pull for me, but otherwise things were a little bit logical. And logical in a way with a horse like Sir Winston that I think was very playable, but you got a decent price for it.
Yeah, and as we said, the only hunter buyer in that race definitely got a decent price. And the two hype horses, one of them ran well, the other one didn't. So hopefully they can bring that 20-cent pick six to Saratoga one weekend. That'd be great.
I'm going to be interested to see if this was kind of an experiment. Certainly if it was, it was
worked.
Successful.
Definitely worked.
And so I'm going to be interested to see if that does play out up at Saratoga. Oh, I should mention, speaking of Saratoga, and when I talked to you with the cut-ins the other day, we were talking about the low roller contest, which I won, which was kind of fun, against a very limited field, admittedly, on a Thursday at Belmont, not the kind of a field they get up at Saratoga. But I asked the folks, because low rollers up there typically have been Sunday and Monday, and without Mondays, I said he's still going to do the 2 days, and I'm not sure it's cemented, but they're looking at Sunday and Thursdays up there now for the low roller. So folks will still have the same number of opportunities if they want to give it a shot up at Saratoga. All right, let's wrap things up because we are late, but understandably so off a big day like that, really a big weekend.
Yeah, having, 20 minutes late, so I think it's, we can still be here for another hour.
I was about to say we can still keep going because we haven't really touched specifically on Thursday and Friday, but we'll certainly be talking about these races more and more as these horses come back and we reflect on the performances from the Thursday, Friday, Saturday sequence, the Belmont Stakes Festival. Belmont back in action again today. I'm out, no OTB Live this afternoon. I'm going to take a few days, spend it on the beach, but I was headed up to Maine, and I thought this morning, you know what? I'm going to side trip over and catch one of the last weekends at Suffolk. So this afternoon, maybe I'll do a little call-in if I get there in time, catch one of the last few days at Suffolk Downs, which I visited for the first time a couple of years ago on one of these boutique-type weekends. And nice track. Have you ever been there?
I have not.
It's a nice track. And because they are this limited boutique kind of thing, the day I was there, they had a nice crowd. I expect the same today, but I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm not going to be back until Friday, so you'll be here Wednesday and then sitting in for me on Thursday.
Yeah.
So folks can look forward to that. Don't forget today, one of the Sundays at the Book. The Book, I like that. The Clubhouse Race Book right here at 711 Central Avenue in Albany. A 4-week continuous contest. This is week number 1. It's a trifecta type of a challenge. We'd love to see you down here to take part. It should be a lot of fun. 4 Sundays at the Book. Starts today at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Thanks to our friends at Woodbine for their sponsorship. Woodbine, pick, bet, and cheer on great racing north of the border. And we also want to thank our friends at the Leah Auto Group for their sponsorship. Leah, cars for life. All right. Any last words?
Nah, I mean, just the one thing that I thought we didn't mention is I think every graded stakes yesterday had a different winning jockey, which is great. You love to see that. So.
That's interesting, yeah. And now I'd be interested to go back and see what is it? The Kentucky Derby weekend. They give a prize for I think the Friday and Saturday. They give a prize maybe the trainer and the jockey who have the best weekend. I'd love to see. I don't think there was any prize up for grabs that I know. Maybe there was, but I'd love to go back and look at the whole Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and see who Chad on the trainer side. I guess we know that one. I don't have to look that one up. All right, we'll wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. It's been fun. Hope you enjoyed our live programming from Belmont, both Friday and Saturday morning, the cut-ins on the afternoon as well. As stated, plenty of great action again today. Enjoy all of it. Racing is available tonight as well here at Capital OTB, on Capital OTB TV, and via CapitalOTBBet.com. So enjoy all the racing action. Sully will be back in on Wednesday. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.